Dave Anderson here with the Fisherman magazine, and this week we heard about phenomenal togging across all of southern New England, including a 23-pounder from Connecticut. We are hearing about striped bass getting bigger and bigger across that same region, with even some fish over slot size now coming from the Rhode Island surf. And we're hearing about the continuation of just better and better trout fishing as Massachusetts and Connecticut continue to stock these broodstock fish, just getting better and better, hearing about great catches. Stay tuned for all that and more on this week's New England Fishing Forecast.
The Fishing News is sponsored by these fine partners.
So, it's the waning days of April here, and we're looking into May. May is one of my favorite months to fish. Especially for striped bass. We've got that to look forward to. Also a great time for some largemouth bass fishing as well. A lot of new fisheries happening, or coming alive right now, so we have a lot to talk about today. But before we get into the whole fishing report thing, I got a couple news items I want to cover. The first being the contest. I decided what I'm going to make. I've never made it before. This is a giant jointed Gibbs troller, and this was sort of a secret weapon for some of the Cape guys back in the 80s, maybe even the 70s. My buddy Teddy asked me to make some of these for him, and I figured, why not? I'll make some for him, make a couple for you. So the person who takes the best photo, between now and the Thursday before Memorial Day will win one of these. I'll have some Yozuri stuff for the runners-up. And it's also going to be the subject, most likely anyway, the subject of one of my plug building articles next year. So if you want one, you can build one yourself using my instructions. So there's that. And if you don't know the rules, there really aren't any rules, except for it's got to be a recent catch, and it's got to show you in the photo. You send your photos to me at danderson@thefisherman.com. Doesn't matter what the species is. Doesn't matter if it's a little fish, big fish, exotic fish. Just want good photos. And I'll pick a few winners, and then we'll probably start another one. Another thing that's going on is NOAA is sort of gearing up to shut down federal waters for scup fishing, porgy fishing if you prefer to call them porgies. There's a lot of nuance to that. There's a lot of, sort of unknowns about what the impact would be on the lives of a recreational fisherman. I'm going to throw it over to Captain Greg DeBrule from the Black Hawk. He's got it locked up. So he's going to tell us what's going on and tell us how you can get involved to help stop that from happening.
I'm here to talk to you about the proposal from NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. This is the government agency that sets all the rules, the regulations, the quotas, and everything for all of us, okay? Recreational and party and charter boats. NOAA is trying to close porgy fishing in federal waters, and that's certainly going to affect everyone that fishes, because it's just outside of 3 miles is federal waters. So if you want to go sea bass fishing and you've got a couple of porgies in your boat, you're violating the law. Now, it's a ridiculous proposal because the porgies, by their own admission, are over 2 times where they want them to be. Okay, so it's a very healthy population of porgies around, and we only catch 6% of that in federal waters, with the majority of that 6% coming from recreational anglers like you. So please, there's going to be a link at the end of this short video. Please go on the link and give your comments to NOAA. It's only open, I think, until May 3rd or May 4th, so don't hesitate. But state your comments of why we should keep porgy fishing open in federal waters. It just creates a plethora of problems, okay, for everybody, all concerned, okay? Thank you very much. We certainly appreciate your cooperation, and have yourself a great season, folks.
Thanks, Greg. Really appreciate you taking the time to shoot that video. Hopefully we can move the needle a little bit with some guys going on and making those public comments. And if you missed that link, it's right here on the screen now. And you can head over to that website and have your voice heard. Last thing we want to talk about is the fact that the Dreamboat competition begins on Sunday, and so does the Coastal Kayak Clash. Those are the two big tournaments that we run here at the Fisherman, and the prize packages that we're giving away this year are going to blow your mind. The Dreamboat competition is year-long, so it starts May 1st, ends November 30th. It's 7 species categories. You're competing for the most points across all those categories, and the winner is going to take home a Steigercraft Miami 23 powered by a 200 horsepower Yamaha motor. The second place prize winner is going on vacation. We're sending you to Marina Pez Vela down in Costa Rica. You're going to do 2 days of offshore fishing. You're going to do a half day of inshore fishing, and you're going to be living in paradise. And you're going to be fishing for bucket list fish. It's hard to beat that. You and 4 total people are going to go on that trip, and it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. Third place is going to win an electronics package from Minn Kota and Humminbird. You're going to get a brand new trolling motor. You're going to get all the electronics that you need to kind of make that thing do what it's supposed to do. Plus, you're going to get the chip that has all the maps for the region. And beyond that, there's just many, many other prizes from all your favorite sponsors. You go right down the list. It's almost staggering. And that tournament, the Dreamboat, is open to all subscribers. If you subscribe to the magazine, you're automatically entered. All you have to do is catch a fish and enter it. Coastal Kayak Clash, same thing. It's year-long, May 1st to November 30th. Same thing again with the species categories. Something new for this year is we took sea robin off the list and we added striped bass back on, so we're looking to see some big fish this year. And we're giving away a Hobie Mirage Outback kayak to the first place prize winner. We are giving away a Humminbird Chirp 9 fish finder to the second place prize winner. We're giving away a whole bunch of other stuff from yakatak.com and Tsunami and many, many other things. It's a phenomenal tournament. The only thing you have to do for that one is subscribe and sign up on the website. To do that, you're just going to go to the contest tab on the website, click on the Coastal Kayak Clash tab, and then you'll be able to do the rest from there. You're not going to find a tournament on the East Coast that gives out that kind of prizes for $30. So if you're not a subscriber to the Fisherman, just subscribe, and you're automatically entered in both, or at least automatically eligible for both. And it's $30. It's the best $30 you can spend in fishing. I guarantee you that. Good luck if you do it, and looking forward to seeing your name in lights. So let's start things off in Massachusetts, where we are starting to even out a little bit. It was all freshwater all the time for these last, I don't even know how many weeks. But now we're starting to even it out a little bit. So freshwater fishing is probably still getting more action out of the average Massachusetts angler than saltwater. So we'll start there. Bass fishing throughout pretty much all of Massachusetts and even up into Maine has been really good. We're seeing a lot of really big fish taken. And these next 2 weeks, a lot of guys think of this as the beginning of the spawn, but in most of the ponds, we still have a couple weeks before the fish bed up. And, this is sort of that urgency time for these big females. They're going to try to pack on the calories before they go through that spawning ritual, which takes a lot out of them. The perch spawn is ongoing. Still haven't gotten that video. One of these days I'm hopefully going to shoot it for you so I can show you what that looks like. It's pretty amazing. But a lot of big fish are being taken. Swim baits and jigs are the two things that seem to be hooking the most fish. And if you're looking to stick that last big one before you move over to stripers like I am, this is the time to really put in a lot of hours, and especially those nighttime hours. Wake baits at night, especially things that look, have that bluegill size, like a bull wake or something like that. Definitely a good way to go, and definitely gives you a good shot at getting that really big fish. As we mentioned last week, the Massachusetts DFW has been putting in a lot of brood stock fish throughout the state, but seems to be heavily concentrated on the Cape. And now we're starting to see the fruits of those efforts. We're starting to see some bigger fish being caught. Starting to hear about some really nice fish over 6 pounds, being taken from some of the Cape ponds. So that is getting a lot of attention. I did hear from East End Eddie. He said no fish in the canal yet, but the herring run is now full of fish. It's always a little late in the canal herring run. The water's colder there, but the herring are there, and really it's probably only a matter of a week to 10 days before those first fish enter the canal. And he said with the herring and a lot of other forage, there's a lot of stuff there waiting for them. Should be a good start to the canal season. The other thing that's happening, striper-wise, is there are stripers all along the Nantucket Sound beaches. We're starting to see them now in Buzzards Bay. Best place to get them still is out on the vineyard, but you got to take a ferry to get those if you aren't lucky enough to live on the vineyard. But there are fish out there. There are slot fish out there, and there's more and more fish moving along the actual Massachusetts shoreline every day. Last thing that we'll talk about in Massachusetts is the haddock fishery has been awesome. Talked to Jason Colby yesterday, and he said that they struggled a little bit in the morning, and then they finally found a pile of fish, and they put a full boat limit on there. It was a ridiculous number of fish. I can't remember. It was over 50. It might have even been over 60 fish. Had a couple throwback cod as well. He said the flounder fishery is still slow, but everyone expects that to kind of fire up in the next 5 to 10 days. So that's something else to keep an eye on, and that's a story that happened for you guys in Massachusetts this week. In Rhode Island, we're seeing two main focuses. It's either striped bass or blackfish. The spring blackfishing has been excellent this year, and it's only going to get better. We're lucky in Rhode Island, and I forgot to mention in Massachusetts too, that our seasons last all the way to the end of May. And so we still have a whole month to go, where Connecticut is going to shut down in just a few days. But the fishing in Rhode Island and Massachusetts has been very good. Rhode Island seems to be the hot zone, though. Seeing a lot of solid fish, a lot of like 6.5 to 8.5 pound fish. And the fish they're not even that deep right now. You're fishing in 25 feet of water or less. Shore guys are starting to get in on it. I was driving around in Rhode Island the other day, and I saw a lot of guys out on the rocky spots, more than I expected to. So it's definitely happening. It's definitely on. And if you're looking to stick that first piggy on a jiggy of the year, now's the time. So don't hesitate. Striper-wise, we've got schoolies pretty much from one end of the ocean state to the other. There's plenty of fish up in most of the estuaries and the breachways and the salt ponds, up in Point Judith Pond. Some of those fish are holdover fish. Doesn't matter. They all got stripes. They're all fun to catch. But we have heard now of some slot fish in the surf, like we talked about last week, and even a few that just inched over the slot limit size, up to like 36, 37 inches. Not a lot of them, but they are there. And it's kind of early, and I think it's pretty exciting. The other thing that I have heard about, don't have any pictures to prove it, but there are some weak fish starting to show up again. Seems to be mostly along the South County beaches at the moment, and it doesn't seem like there's a lot of them, but this is how it began last year too. And if that's any kind of an indicator, we're gonna, we'll start seeing them bunching up in the upper reaches of Narragansett Bay in the coming weeks, and that's another exciting thing for me. Many years that I've worked in the fishing industry, we've had almost no weak fish to talk about. Now we're going on 2 or 3 years in a row here where they're around, and I'm hoping that this year's going to be even better than last year. As far as the cod fishing goes, really not a lot to talk about. I know the guys are running out there. Everyone kept waiting for April to get better, and it just really hasn't. So I think we're just going to be waiting a little bit longer and see if it gets better in May. But that's the long and the short of it. And as far as freshwater goes, I haven't heard any trout news from Rhode Island, but I have seen some evidence of guys getting some big bass at night, some of the interior ponds, some of the herring ponds too. And, like I said in the Massachusetts report, this is the time. This is when those fish are going to make that last push to bulk up before they get on the beds. And they're definitely vulnerable to being fished with a jig or a big bait. And the night bite tends to be the best bite. And that's the story that I have for you guys in Rhode Island this week. As we move over into Connecticut, the tog fishing really got exciting this week, and that's so typical. I wrote the Connecticut Report for, 15 years, and I always kind of wondered why they didn't move that start date up 15 days. If they went April 15th to May 15th, it would be, not only would it be 100 times better, but it would be 1,000 times more fun. Because those first 2.5 to 3 weeks of the season, most years are not that good. And then that last 10 days or so, you get that ramp up. It starts to get better. And then on that, those last 4 days, it's like on fire, and then the guillotine chops your head off and it's over. And that's what's going to happen this year. So, over this past week, we've seen a lot more nice fish. A lot of fish in that 5 to 8 pound class, and one giant, a 23 pounder taken by Matt Stone. I'm going to toss it over to him and let him tell you the story. But phenomenal catch and even more phenomenal release. Here it is.
All right, a little bit about the story of catching 23-pound, 2-ounce tog on Sunday. Really grateful to run into that fish. Really proud to watch it swim off. Start of the day, got a bunch of bites early on, hit a variety of depths. This particular depth was in the 16 to 17 to 18 foot range. Dropped down, got a small fish at first, dropped down again, a bunch of quick taps happened. I'd heard that big tog have light bites, and I didn't expect this to be this big of a fish, but I waited. Fish picked it up, rod tip went light. Was using this 5/8 ounce Asylum jig in Angry Hornet color, 50-pound leader. I was very close to the structure that I was fishing. Set the hook, and rod tip immediately went solid. It's like a cinder block. Fish ran from the structure. I stood up in my kayak in an Old Town Autopilot 120. Was able to steer the line around the bow of the kayak back and forth a handful of times. Fish took one last really long run, dug about 20 yards of line or so. At that point, it was on its side when it came to the surface, and I saw the proportions of it. Pretty incredible fish. I knew it was special. Line wrapped with one hand, got my lip grips, boga grips on its jaw with the other hand, and flopped it into the kayak. Just blown away by the fish. Just again, really grateful to run into it. Really proud to watch it swim off, and thankful for the experience.
Matt, really appreciate you taking the time to tell us that story. Phenomenal catch, as I said already, and good on you for releasing that dinosaur. Good on you, man. We all appreciate that. So that's maybe not indicative of what's going on blackfish-wise in the sound, but it shows you, it's on right now. And if you've been kind of wondering if it's going to light up, it's up. And you've only got a few days to get out there and do it. And if I were you, I'd take tomorrow off, because Saturday is going to be a Donnybrook out there. There's going to be, every boat's going to be out there, and it's going to be bumper boats in all the good spots. So get out there Friday and see what you can catch. Send me some photos. Striper-wise, we got bass. Same thing as Rhode Island, pretty much from one end of the state to the other. It's definitely schoolie dominant, but when you get up into the rivers, whether it's the Hoosie, the Thames, or the Connecticut River, you're going to find some bigger fish. You got to use your coconut. You got to think about the fact that there's big bait in these rivers, and if you want to catch a bigger fish, you got to go where they can find big bait. The herring runs are the place to be. I know we talked about it a little bit last week. We talked about needing a slow and a medium and a fast offering. And it's worth repeating. You want something like a Danny or a Pikey or something like that. The fish real slow to sort of mimic that floundering on its last leg herring trying to get into the run. But more often for me, it's medium or fast that works. And so you got a redfin or a hydro minnow or something like that. You can fish a little bit faster. That will draw a lot of strikes, especially in the dark. And then of course, the magic swimmer or the finesse fish on on a weighted beast hook is another great way to keep that bait upright, fish it real fast. You're going to want to fish a little heavier hook than you might think. But those bass are used to seeing those herring try to charge into the run and beat them through, beat them through without getting eaten. So they're going to go through fast, and those bass are ready for it. And if you do it that way, you're showing them something they're used to seeing, and you're more likely to draw the strikes. So that's my recommendation, and it's going to be for the next couple of weeks as these bass pile up in these runs. And again, and another thing too, if you come up on some run you haven't fished before and you only got 2 feet of water out there, don't turn your back on it. Those fish are very often very skinny water. Sometimes you can't see them, but what an exhilarating way to catch a fish. You get them in 2 feet of water like that, and the battle is. It rivals anything. It's amazing. So definitely want to check that out. Talking on the freshwater side of things, we have trout fishing in Connecticut continues to be awesome. The state continues to stock. We're seeing a lot of big trout. I got a really nice picture here from Andrew from Fisher Factory 3. I think this fish was over 6 pounds. And that's just sort of an example of the quality fish that that DEEP is putting in Connecticut waters right now. So definitely going to want to check that out. I don't have bass, largemouth bass news from Connecticut, but again, it's transferable. I know it was good in Mass. I know it's been good in Rhode Island. So I guarantee you, if you go largemouth bass fishing in Connecticut, you're going to find the same kind of bite. And it's going to be that same regional thing where these fish are getting ready to bed up. Those females are going out for that last big meal, and they're going to feed heavy and hard, and you got a really good chance of getting a really big one. So don't miss out on that. Let's toss it over to Max from Fisherman's World now. Hear what's happening out in the western part of the state.
The striped bass fishing in our area is red hot right now with a lot of schoolies, keeper size, and then overslot fish in the mix. And then down to our west, we're starting to see some 20 to 30 pound fish being caught on mojos, deep divers, umbrellas, and bunker spoons. Places like off City Island and all the way down to the Throgs Neck Bridge. This should only get better as the bass are making their way up the Hudson and doing their spawn right now. Locally, fishing in the Housatonic River, back bays, harbors, and local tidal rivers are really good. Bass are keying in on herring, and you can find these fish all the way up to local dams or where the saltwater meets the fresh. Fishing the higher incoming tides are best. In the mouth of the river right now, the Housatonic, guys are just still doing well on the fly rod, and the guys are catching some nice fish all the way up towards the dam, places like Sullivan's Island, the Sports Complex, and Sunnyside School. We saw some fish of blackfish this week. It wasn't red hot, but guys putting in their time are catching them. There's a couple more days left in the season, so using stuff like sandworms, clams, and crabs. And then flounder fishing, we haven't heard much, but I'm sure they're out there. You guys got to get out there, like local flats, like Nauk River, and then out in front of Calf Pasture Beach is usually good this time of year. Remember to bring clam chum, clams, and then guys like to use corn. And then still in our local rivers for freshwater, the trout fish has been great. We've seen some really nice fish, actually to 5 pounds by Keith this week. They're catching them on spinner baits like rooster tails, meps, and then small jigs, small rapalas, you name it. And then, of course, worms, and then live shiners. Thanks and good luck.
Thanks again, Max. Always appreciate your videos, and hope to see you soon, my friend. So that's what I have for you guys in the reports this week. Don't forget that you got to head over to that website that Greg was talking about and have your public comment heard on the Scup thing. It may not sound important to you, but it's important. And it means better fishing for recreational anglers, and it means that the charter fleet has those fish to work on, and they're not always going to be on the inshore reefs competing with you. So get on that website, make your public comment heard. If you're not a subscriber to the Fisherman, I highly recommend you head over to the website, see what we got going on there. We got contests, we got articles that cover the whole region. You got access to all 3 editions and all the reports. It's the best $30 you can spend in fishing publication. I truly believe that. Head over there, check it out. I appreciate you guys. We'll see you next week.